You need to be able to take care of yourself and the people that care about you. I think survival skills are vastly underrated.
If you can take care of yourself and you can take care of your family, then you have dominion over yourself.
A very important man skill is to teach the next generation.
Oh, every guy needs to know how to handle a gun. I'm very, very passionate
Let's
about
dig
guns.
into that. Show us a couple of your guns, man. Bring them over here. Tell us about these guns. I want to see them. Come on. Comfort is the enemy of long-term success. If you're seeking comfort and you're a man, you're screwed. Welcome to the Sovereign Man Podcast. I'm your host, Nikki Ballou. I'm here with one of my regular men, Elon Shrulovich. Welcome, Elon. Good to have you back, brother.
How you doing, Nikki?
And I'm awesome, bro. I'm awesome.
What I like to hear.
So, man, you and I have had a couple really awesome, kick-ass conversations as part of the podcast. I'm really excited that we're having another one today. Today's topic is one that's near and dear to my heart and yours too, I believe. And that's the subject of learning man skills. You know, we live in a time where men's testosterone's falling. Like men's testosterone compared to what it was in the mid-1980s is just down, down, down. And one of the reasons for this is that men don't feel capable. Men don't have skills. They don't have man skills the way they used to. They don't know how to field dress a deer. They don't know how to use edged weapons. They don't know how to use a knife to do things. They don't know how to use guns. They don't know, frankly, how to set up camp. And these are all the types of man skills that are important for men to know and be able to utilize in the day-to-day life. So they have that feeling of confidence. And I wanted to talk to you because you're a man with a lot of man skills. And first of all, I want to ask you, how do you define a man skill? What does a man skill mean to you?
I would say anything that ties into like virtues that I relate to masculinity. So if you look at like virtues, I connect to masculinity. Things like courage is a good virtue. Being capable is a good virtue. A provider is a good virtue. Fortitude. So anything that helps me pursue or live up to those virtues effectively, I think is a good skill. Being a protector, you know, you're talking about edged weapons, guns. Obviously, like you want to be able to be a provider and protector. Being able to use a knife and guns are two attributes that are very beneficial.
This is my latest toy, the 2 Lamb
nice.
Shinto, made by Spartan Blades USA. Just a beautiful knife. I got to tell you, it's made with S45 VN steel, man. That's the latest super steel they're making here.
Oh, sick. Through
Crucible Steel, man. And 2 Lamb, he's a Green Beret, ex-Green Beret. He's got his own show, reality TV show. He's also a character in Call of Duty, bro. That's how cool that dude is.
He's what? He's what?
A character in Call of Duty. Like,
oh, yeah, that is sick. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool to have one of his knives. I'm looking forward to connecting with 2 and getting to know him. I know some people who know him. And I want to bring him on the show. I think he'd be a great guest. So
for sure, yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree with what you said. And I think that there's a lot of men that frankly don't even know what a man skill is. And there's a lot of men who don't understand why it's so important to have a man skill. So let's talk about some of your man skills because, you know, for example, you're really good at mixed martial arts, right?
Yeah.
You practice mixed martial arts. So first of all, what attracted you to mixed martial arts? And why do you feel as a man that men would benefit from having the skill of being able to physically defend themselves? Or frankly, if necessary, go on offense?
I think it's just super important for confidence. So I grew up with a lot of energy. I was kind of a rowdy kid. And I think a lot of boys just have excess energy that they don't know how to channel. I think martial arts in general, any type of competitive martial art, I think there's a lot of value in traditional martial arts as well. But I do think that every martial art needs some kind of live element to it to be effective. Meaning that if you're just doing forms all day, if you're just doing technique, but you're never testing yourself, you're missing out on a vital part of what self-defense is and what training martial arts is. There's a lot of systems that just don't dive deep enough into the sparring element, which is why things like Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, Muay Thai, and all those did so well because they're competitive by nature. I think it's important fundamentally for that reason specifically. I think it's super important for young boys who have all this energy and are trying to, by nature, create hierarchical structures, right? So you're in a group of boys. Everyone kind of wants to be dominant. People start pushing each other around a little bit. You grow up in that environment. You do want something that kind of helps you feel confident in yourself. And you're talking about like alpha, right? A real alpha doesn't need to assert himself. People could just sense it off of the person. People sense confidence. So when you train fighting and you train self-defense, you actually start emanating that much more, and actually you give it off to the world. You're less likely to be a victim automatically, even without things having to escalate, because you have more confidence you're putting out in the world. It's also super important. One thing about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specifically that I think is really unique is that you're kind of in a life or death situation every time you train. Someone puts you in a rear naked choke or triangle choke or whatever it is. If that was the real world, you're done. It's game over. They're choking you to death, right? In the gym, you could tap out, but when you tap out, you're basically telling the other person, hey, you had me, I was dead. Even an arm bar, compound fracture to your arm, you're not doing anything after that. That person can pretty much do whatever they want to you. So you're constantly putting yourself in an environment where you have to drop.
Unless you have one of these in your other hand.
I'll show some of my guns off later. You'll like them, but it's a totally different thing, in my opinion. I'm a huge fan of both. I'm at the range 3-4 times a week. I'm also training, 4 times a week, empty hand. And there's a reason. It's a different psychological thing. To be able to put myself up against another man and just see where I stand every week, multiple times a week. It kind of relaxes me. It makes me more calm. I feel, whether I win or lose, I feel more in touch with myself.
We as men want to know where we fit in the hierarchy of men. And that applies to all aspects of life. It applies to business. It applies to making money. It applies to dating the hottest girl in school or not. It applies to competing in the gym in mixed martial arts, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or lifting weights. It applies to shooting guns at the range. It applies to making steaks at the barbecue. We all want to know where we stand, and we're competitive. Competition is the way of men. But specifically, why is it important as a man, in your estimation, for you to have the ability to fight? Why does that matter? Why is that a man's skill worth cultivating?
Oh, because I just previously mentioned being a protector is a very important virtue in masculinity in general, in nature. Yeah. So it directly ties into that. Anything, whether it's empty hand, whether it's using a gun. I mean, a gun gives you all types of added benefits, like I said, hunting. But it's being a protector is one of the foundational things that kind of is important to me. I don't ever want
not just you, to all men. All men need to have that ability to protect, right? My friend Ryan Mickler. Yeah. My friend Ryan Mickler, who does the Order of Man podcast, and he has a movement of men called Order of Man. He says that inside his organization, he's all about teaching men how to protect, provide, and preside. I love that, the 3 Ps, and protection is really, really important. But there's other man skills that matter as well. So you talk about the ability to fight, the ability to take care of yourself. You also talk about the ability to use weapons like guns and edged weapons. Now, why do you think those are important man skills? Why does every man need to know how to handle a gun?
Oh, every guy needs to know how to handle a gun. I'm very, very passionate about guns.
Let's dig into that.
Guns. For multiple reasons. Again, my background. I come from a very, rough background in terms of my parents' history. I believe that if there's not strong men in a population, it leads to the ability for the government to be totalitarian or authoritarian. So weak men just open up a population, much like, I just talked about this today, like what you see in China. They just said, the CCP came out and said, no more sissy men in movies. They literally said something like that. They only want strong men in movies. I'm not a fan of the CCP. The reason the CCP is doing that is because they understand that if they have a strong population and the United States has a weak population, that they'll be more dominant in the world. Plain and simple. Yeah, so guns are a huge part of that. Now, guns, listen, guns are extremely important for numerous reasons. They're important for home defense, to protect your family, which is something you have an obligation to do. They're important as a deterrent from the government taking action. They're a deterrent from hot break-ins. They're also super valuable for hunting and survivalist reasons, right? You have a 22, say you get like even if you're not comfortable with guns, just get like an SMP 1522. It's a 22 caliber gun with zero recoil, has like a large magazine. I don't know how much it carries, like 25 or 32 rounds in the magazine. I don't know how many rounds are in the magazine, but it carries a lot of ammo. You can go out, you can hunt with that. You'll be able to kill animals. You'll also be able to protect your home. There you go. You got one gun that you can get comfortable with. Super important. And I can get into like what kind of calibers are best for what, but I think that, I'm a huge advocate for people just getting comfortable with guns. If they haven't used them, it's a super important skill. And and I think every man should be able to go out and be comfortable knowing that if shit hits the fan, they'll be able to go get food and they'll be able to protect their home. You know what I mean? And if needed, be able to protect their country, whatever that thing is that you need to protect, their freedom. So guns are a vital part of that. They're the ultimate expression in our time of our max capability to protect ourselves. We don't really walk around with bazookas. You know what I mean? We don't walk around with tanks. We have guns. That's where we're at right now as civilians.
There's a Floridian, a great Floridian like you, named Felix Rodriguez. He was a Cuban exile, and then he later on became an American citizen and worked for the CIA. And there was a time where the way the law was written, you could have a single shot rifle, and they didn't talk about caliber or size. So he had a recoilless rifle in the trunk of his pickup truck bed, and the police stopped him. He was with the CIA and whatnot. They said, "Yo, man, what are you doing? What the hell is this?" He said, "This is a single shot rifle." They said, "This thing's like a military weapon." They go, "No, this is a single shot rifle." And he showed them the appropriate statute, and they couldn't arrest him for it. He said, "I can legally have this." And the very next day, I think the Florida legislature started to amend the law to not allow people to drive around with recoilless rifles in the back of their pickup trucks. But I'll tell you, it also says something that if at any point a government becomes tyrannical, an armed population with men can step up and keep that government's tyrannical impulses in check. You look at Australia right now today. Australia has gone full fascist. The people there in charge of government are talking about a new world order, and they've got concentration camps, and they've got apps on people's phones. And if they don't respond to them within 15 minutes, they're sending cops to them. But Australia gave up their guns a while back. If their citizens had guns now, I'm telling you, this government wouldn't be pulling this crap. You know what I mean?
They'd be much more hesitant to
more hesitant
the way there. Did you know they're putting apps on people's phones? They're telling everyone has to download an app. You get 15 minutes to check in when the government messages you. Yeah. Oh, that's what you said? Sorry, I didn't hear about the
15 minutes. If you don't check in within 15 minutes, they'll send the cop to come and harass you, man. It's nuts, bro. Bro, that's like full fascist, man. Full on communist, fascist, authoritarian BS. The government has no right to do that. Screw the government.
I agree with you. I think people are so willing nowadays. Again, it's because we've been trained to be weak, to be able to. So here's the ultimate problem with going in that direction of weakness. What are every virtue that we look at as a society that we've admired in men? Like I said, courage, fortitude, being a provider, being a protector. These are all things that are the antithesis of safety, right? So they're the opposite of safety. And what have we been teaching Americans and Australians and people in the UK? We've been teaching them, especially since the coronavirus, that actually all these virtues that have kept societies functional and strong and moving forward are completely secondary to safety. Safety is actually the most important thing. No one can die of COVID. That's it. And if you go against that claim, you are evil. You don't care for human life. You don't care about anything, and you need to be segregated out of society. And so they've used that staple of the idea of safety, which is an impossible standard. We're never safe. It's an impossible standard. They locked down in the United States when we had fewer than 500 cases. So my friend told me this, Jordan Fultz, he said the most moment he realized we were in trouble was when the standard, the precedent for locking down the entire country was 500 cases. He said we'd never get below that. He said everyone who was saying, 6 weeks to flatten the curve, he was like, that's not going to happen. He's like, there will always be more than 500 cases. And so he was dead on. He's like, that's why I was fighting it from the start. We've prioritized safety and as the ultimate virtue, which it's not a virtue. It's the opposite of virtues. It's the opposite of virtues. You should seek adversity. You should seek to challenge yourself. You should seek to be courageous in the face of risk. That doesn't mean you should go out and get COVID. I'm not saying that. That's idiotic. But I am saying that you should keep freedom. And by freedom, I mean the government should not control your life as a priority above this notion that no one can ever die ever again. We're all going to die. Sucks. It is what it is. You know what I mean? If you don't have faith, that's up to you. You can find it. And but that's part of life. So this notion that and it's that when we talk about these man skills, they're directly correlated to that. Because if you had a population of people who felt like they could provide for themselves, who felt like they were able to protect, who felt like they could make decisions and have personal responsibility. That's one of the most fundamental important things in any society that remains free is people accepting the concept of personal responsibility, which we've handed over.
Is key. And that's why having man skills is important because, first of all, the ability to hunt. I think hunting is a man skill. You should know how to hunt. Yeah, you live in a time where, you're thinking, I don't need to hunt. I mean, food's provided for me at the grocery store and I buy it. But what if that doesn't always remain the case? What if the government in its infinite tyrannical lack of wisdom decides to take some actions which completely disrupt the food supply? And you're going to have to be responsible for going out there and getting your own food, literally getting your own food to survive, to eat. You better know how to hunt. You better know how to use a weapon in order to bring down something to feed your family. And if you don't know that, shame on you, man. As a man, you got to understand how to take care of business if need be. Hopefully it won't need be, but what if it is? What if you have to go out there and hunt? And, when I was a kid, I went hunting with some of my dad's friends who were serious hunters. I haven't really hunted in years, but I want to go hunt. I want to, get my license here in Canada. You can hunt with bows and arrows. You can hunt with long guns. You can't hunt with handguns. And I'm interested in going out there and doing some hunting. I'm actually pretty excited about going and learning how to hunt. I think that's an important man skill. What are your thoughts on hunting as a man skill and the importance of it for men to know how to do it?
Again, everything comes down to what keeps me and my family alive, right? And like you said, if shit hits the fan, I need to be able to provide food. It's one of the main things: food, water, shelter. There you go. If I got those three things covered, I'm doing my job. So, again, it all ties into the same overarching kind of theme of if everyone can take care of themselves, it creates a society that is much more independent of handing over rights to government.
Exactly.
And so being able to hunt, I mean, what can the government take away from you? If we had a whole population of people who could get their own food, could get their own water, could protect their homes, it just inherently puts a sense of restraint on what the government will try and impose.
Yeah. Another man's skill, in my opinion, is the ability to maintain your vehicle. Right? I think it's important as men that we should be able to change a tire, that we should be able to change the oil in our car. We should be able to take care of mechanical things in our vehicles, and the vehicles of our women and the members of our family who are older, maybe, who right now aren't really able to do that. So when a man can do that, when a man can take care of these things, he's somebody that the family can count on. He's somebody that the family can say, hey, this man can take care of transportation. He can take care of protecting us. He can take care of providing for us so we have enough to eat and we've got shelter in place. What are your thoughts on that?
I think just being handy in general is pretty much what you're getting at, which is important, right? Like there's a leak. You don't want to just be stuck with water pouring into your house. You want to be able to figure it out. You know, if there's something going on, you want to be able to fix it. God forbid no one else can. And I think it's good just to be handy in general and just have, you know, you should have tools in your house. If you're a guy and you don't have tools in your house, I think that's a bit weird.
Very true.
So I think any skill is, you know, anything that helps you get through life and helps you take care of your family is a beneficial skill. I mean, like there's guys out there who live in New York. I lived in New York for years. I didn't have a car. Obviously, when I left New York, I started, you know, like, oh, I need a car. I got to figure this out. I got to learn about cars. And then I started loving cars. But in Queens, I mean, I just couldn't afford one when I was younger. And I was like 26 when I got my first car, something like that. 24, 26, I can't remember. But it was an Altima. Nissan Altima.
So being handy in general is very important. Having tools is important. You know, I have a bunch of Leatherman multi-tools. I don't have one here to show you, but I've got several of them inside of my collection of Leatherman multi-tools. I think at the moment I've got like 5 different Leatherman multi-tools. I've got other tools that I use. And I think that's really, really important. And, you know, I'm a big knife collector, as you know. So this weekend, I decided I was going to clean and maintain one of my knives, my go-to EDC. So, you know, my go-to EDC has been my zero tolerance 0562 Hinderer design carbon fiber. So this is it, right? This is it. And I've had this knife for about almost 4 years. And I'd never cleaned it myself. So I went on YouTube, I watched the disassembly and maintenance video, and I took this knife apart, I cleaned it, and I put it back together again. And I got to tell you, Elon, this knife right now is smoother. It's got better action than it did before I cleaned it. And I did all this, man, and I felt so good about it. So, see, you hear that satisfying click on the detent, right? And if you look at this, I mean, inside of there was gunky and dirty, and now it really isn't anymore, right? And so here's the other thing. Now, there's still some spots that, you know, I see I can do a better job of next time in getting some things off of there. But check out the drop shutty action, right? It's fallen back, drop shut again. And the fact that I was able to do this made me feel like I'm a man. I've got skills. You know what I'm saying? I can take a knife apart, I can put it back together again and make it work better. And that's the sort of thing that makes me feel that I've got the ability to get things done. I'm a count-onable, reliable man. And a man with man skills is a count-onable, reliable man. And that's what our society needs. It needs men to be count-onable and reliable. And that way, we've got a strong society. That way, if a nation like China decides that, hey, we're going to have no more sissy men in movies, we're just going to have strong men in movies, we're going to have manly education. You know, if we, from the grassroots, start to do the same thing in our society, if it ever comes down to war between China and the West, and I hope it never does, then our men will be able to hold their own. But if our men are a bunch of girly men, sissies with no skills whatsoever, you know, a society and a culture with manly men, with rough men, with tough men, with men with skills is going to run roughshod over these weaklings.
I don't even think they need to have a physical war. I don't think that's the game plan anymore anyway. If you can get a society to go against absolute truth in the way that we have, then you inevitably, I mean, look at the movements nowadays. The country destroys itself from within. It's in progress. You have people burning the American flag en masse, saying it now represents white supremacy. I'm not talking about the Confederate flag. I'm talking about the American flag is being promoted as a white supremacist flag. You have people saying that religion is terrible across the whole country, which is a kind of foundational thing in the United States, that we did have a separation of church and state, but we were a primarily Judeo-Christian country that relied on these ethics, and they're turned on their head. You look at most things, freedom of speech, 60% of millennials don't believe in freedom of speech. They believe in that the right to not be offended should supersede the right to offend. 60% of Americans now self-censor and feel like they have to hold back their views. So, and again, gun rights are always under attack in the United States. So the way to destroy America is strong when it's attacked. America is weak when it's left to its own devices to destroy itself from within, because its institutions have been completely corrupted with, you know, this extreme ideology that there's no such thing as absolute truth, that everything is morally relative, and that, gender is a social construct. So once gender becomes a social construct, if you can convince, and I talk about this a lot.
It's not. Gender's biology. I don't care what anybody says. Listen, if somebody feels that, they were born a man and they want to transition into being a woman and they want to go through the process and have the surgery and all that stuff, more power to them. I believe in freedom. Knock yourself out. Do whatever you want to do. But this has now been turned into something where unscrupulous men, because it's mostly men that are doing it, are taking advantage of the craziness in our society, and they're entering women's sports so they can win. I mean, that's a messed up individual who's doing that to take advantage over biologically weaker females.
It's
crazy.
They're going into prisons. They're sending male rapists to female prisons. That's where we are today. In California, a male rapist who identified as female just impregnated his female cellmate. In the UK, there was a male rapist who was put in prison. Anyone can go on Snopes and see this if they don't believe me. And Snopes is not some far-right conspiracy website. It's Snopes. They can go see that man raped 24 women in prison before being removed or sexually assaulted. And it's happened in other parts of the United States. So if you can get a population to believe that it's okay to put men who are rapists in female prisons, you can get a population to do anything. You can get a population to destroy itself.
It's so but you see, the whole thing is that we're living in a time where dark forces from without are looking to weaken us as a country, weaken us as a culture. Because I'm in Canada, I'm not in the United States, and what they're doing is they're using wedge.
I'm in Canada too, by the way.
Yeah, they're using wedge issue. I know that wedge issues to drive people apart from one another, and what they're doing is they're wanting to make the people divided. Divide and conquer is as old as time itself. My own personal belief is that this is not something that's happening spontaneously. It is something that's directed. There was a former KGB agent that said that the KGB had put programs together where they could take a stable society within 6 weeks, bring it to the point of crisis. When you think about that, 6 weeks, bring it to the point of crisis, subvert it from within. And that's what's happening in the West right now. Unfortunately, there's people that are going along with it. It's difficult to get the entire population to see it. And I think that's a problem. But let's go back to man skills, because this is a political conversation. It's a man skills conversation. Okay. So we're talking about man skills. And we've talked about some man skills that you and I have that are important for men to have. I think another man skill that a man's got to be able to have is the ability to survive. So survival skills. You got to be able to, if shit hits the fan, as it were, go out into the wilderness and survive. You need to be able to find shelter there. You need to be able to set up a system to have warmth. You need to be able to hunt food. You need to be able to take care of yourself and the people that care about you. I think survival skills are vastly underrated. I want to know what your thoughts are on survival skills.
No, I'm in full agreement. Again, it all comes back to provide shelter, provide food, provide water. Right? So survival skills directly connect to providing shelter, providing food, providing water. Knowing how to, all the things we're talking about, knowing how to use a gun, knowing how to use a knife, knowing how to use your hands. Those are all things that if you don't know how to start a fire, it's going to be tough for you. It gets real cold sometimes at night. You can't cook your food. So these are things that a lot of people, a life of comfort is sometimes dangerous because you have to seek out, these skills and you go, why am I learning to do this? I have a comfortable life. I have a stove. I have an oven. I don't need this. But you don't know that you'll always have that. You don't know where things are going to be in the future. And so
comfort is the enemy of long-term success. Comfort is the enemy of success. Comfort is the enemy of victory. Comfort is the enemy of living a life well lived. Comfort is the enemy, period. If you're seeking comfort and you're a man, you're screwed. You're screwed. You need to be seeking discomfort. You need to be seeking things that challenge you. And part of the reason why man skills are important is because man skills challenge you to learn how to do things, to adapt, to overcome, and to improvise, and to be able to get out there and win. You know, that's a line from Clint Eastwood in the movie Heartbreak Ridge. You adapt, you overcome, you improvise. And that's what every man needs to learn how to do. Comfort sucks, man. Like, I am not a fan of comforts. I mean, yeah, a little bit of comfort, sure. Like when you and I are done here today, I've got some, some pepperettes. I'm going to chew on a couple pepperettes. I'm going to watch Sons of Anarchy, and I'm going to relax. I'm going to enjoy myself. But that's not been the most of my day. I got up at 5:45 this morning. I got on Zoom. I have a call every day, Monday through Friday, with a man who's half my age, who's mentoring me in cryptocurrency and investing in cryptocurrency and learning about that. So that's what I started to do. Then I worked out. Then I went to the office, ran my Battle Brothers group, did that, had a meeting, had another meeting, had another meeting, and then had a coaching call with one of my coaches, had some dinner, and now I'm here. That's not a comfortable day. You know what I mean? That's an action-packed day. Maybe too much action was packed into that day. But nonetheless, I much prefer that rather than, I get up today at 10 o'clock or whatever the hell I want. I sit down, I don't do anything. I stuff my face. Screw that. I want to be uncomfortable, because when I'm uncomfortable, I'm stronger. I'm tougher. Iron sharpens iron. And the iron that sharpens you as a man is the iron of discomfort.
I agree. Yeah, I'm always trying to seek challenges for myself. I'm in the same.
All right, show us a couple of your guns, man. Bring them over here. Tell us about these guns. I'm
going to need a couple minutes. Okay, I'll go get a few.
Go get a few guns. Well, look, while we're waiting for Elon, this episode is super important as far as I'm concerned, because this is an episode that's going to force you as a man to look yourself in the eye in the mirror and ask yourself a question. Okay, a very powerful question. What's worth living for? And what's worth dying for? These two questions come from one of my mentors by the name of Owen Williams. And they're very powerful questions because they force you to think deeply about that which matters to you. Oh, yeah. Oh, man, that's awesome, bro. So talk about this one.
Empty. You can see the gun's empty. Just important to show it's empty, bolts back. What? So This is just, this is what I was saying earlier. This is I have a bunch of guns. I mean, I only brought a few just because I didn't, and safety's on, but this is one right here. Good for hunting. Okay.
Looks like a nice self-defense tool as well.
Yeah, empty. You can see it's empty. There's nothing in. There's nothing in. Right. So right here, this is a very good self-defense handgun.
Which handgun is this?
Springfield Armory XDM Elite. It's the OSP version, which allows you to put a sight on here. I like the iron sights. I just marked the iron sights. I don't know if you could see right here. They're red. I made it red instead. I used a special marker. This is just one of them right here. This is one of my favorite guns currently. The reason I like it is because it's a carbine, but it folds. It fits in a laptop bag. I'm going to be upgrading it soon. So like you said, I like to actually upgrade my guns and mess with my guns, take them apart, see what I can improve. So I'm going to be changing the bolt on the gun. It opens. Again, see there's nothing in there. Empty, right? Not loaded. Okay, so there's this one. This one's really cool because I have my sights, but I can turn it and then use my my red dot. And again, when I'm done with it, super compact, goes away. 9mm, really good caliber.
That's a foldable carbine.
Yeah, it's like a city carbine, it's called. And you can put an extended magazine in here, which is sick.
Nice.
So,
God bless America and the Second Amendment. That's all I've got to say.
I have a lot more guns. Yeah, I don't know if I should bring all of them out. It doesn't make sense. I'm buying an AK-47. But I like guns not only for that. I like guns as kind of, it's something, because gun safety is so important to me. It's like, even now they're placed on the table. They're always aimed away. I always make sure that I only put the magazine in. I have some that are loaded with a round and ready to go. And that's, but that's an everyday carry and the safety's on. And, those are ready to go in case someone breaks in my house. One of the main things you don't want to do is have to rack a slide when someone comes in your house. They'll hear you, right? So you pull the gun back and snap it back. Boom. They're going to hear that. They're going to know where you are, and they're going to know you have a gun, right? You heard how that bolt just hit on the gun when I pulled it back. You heard that snap when I pushed it down. So that you don't want a criminal breaking into your house to hear that. You want to come out. The gun was on safety. You can easily push the safety out. They don't hear anything, and then you can just shoot them. You don't have to worry about it. Because you never want to give away your position and that you're armed. So it's just little things like that people have to learn. And they also have to learn gun safety if they're going to have a gun. I think a lot of people can be irresponsible with guns. And that's why part of the reason is also teaching. I think you were talking about a man skill. It's teaching younger people how to use guns.
Teaching younger people how to use guns. I
have a bunch. Everybody should know. It's not just men. Every single person should know how to use a gun. So, like I said, I collect them. I have a lot of them. And I can always give recommendations if someone's like, what kind of gun should I get for my house? And I'm not comfortable shooting a gun. If you're not comfortable shooting a gun, start off with a 22. A really good gun, I'll go get it. Give me a second, Nikki.
I love it, man. I love that Elon's talking about gun safety. I just took a couple of gun safety courses here in Canada for both long guns and for handguns. And I'll tell you, it was great to do that because I'm very aware of how important gun safety is. If you're not responsible around guns, you could hurt yourself or someone else, or God forbid, even end a life with a gun. So it's very important to understand gun safety, to practice good gun safety, because that way you get to not end someone's life. You get to not injure someone, including possibly yourself. Cool. Okay, Elon.
Empty. Yeah, as you can see, empty. I don't know if you guys can see it's empty, but I'm manually checking it. You can put your finger in there to check also. There's gunpowder on this. I haven't cleaned it. A lot of them have gunpowder. I have to clean my guns. Okay, magazine's empty. Safety's on, good. And then that's the Ruger Mark IV. It's a really nice gun. It comes with the Picatinny rail on it. So you could just put a red dot on it. It's super easy. You'll be able to do it yourself. Then you'll just have to sight it. It's 22. It has no recoil. Pretty much like shooting up, pew, pew, pew. Like you don't feel like you're doing anything. Airsoft. Really, really nice gun. And just the rules of having a gun. Don't point them at anyone unless you want to shoot that person. Treat every gun like it's loaded. Even now I manually check the gun. My finger will never go on the trigger. Even though I know the safety's on and I know that it's not loaded, I will still never point it at anyone. It's always going to be pointed away from people. And my hand will not go on the trigger, my finger, until I'm ready to shoot somebody or something. Those are the only times I'm putting my finger on the trigger. And the only times I'm pointing it at someone. I will literally point it straight down at the ground and move. And, if I have to, I will not point it at anyone, even knowing it's not loaded.
No, man, it's crazy to do that. It's a bad habit to get into to do that. It goes against gun safety to point a gun, loaded or not, at anybody. And you should never do that.
No, people are irresponsible though. Sometimes, like even at the range, like they'll just move it because they're holding it. People they forget. You know what I mean? You always have to realize with a gun, part of the good thing about teaching people guns is it's tremendous discipline that comes along with owning one. And like you said, you have to clean it. So the Ruger Mark IV is actually the easiest gun to clean because you could just pull it right off. Open now, I just stripped it. So I have to clean this gun anyway. But if I just touch here, it should be pretty dirty. I don't know if you guys can see all the
I can see it.
Carbon, whatever.
And
that's reassemble it. What?
Here's what I'm liking about you bringing these guns out and opening them up like this. So number one is you're demonstrating that you got some man skills with guns. You're comfortable around guns. You understand gun safety, but it also shows me that you're responsible enough to want people to know about guns and know how to use guns. And that's powerful. That's a man skill in and of itself. A very important man skill is to teach the next generation. Teaching the next generation how to handle a gun, how to handle a knife, how to clean a gun, how to clean a knife, how to mechanically take care of a car. how to have survival skills in the wilderness, how to cook outdoors, how to cook, period, how to hunt. All these things are important skills to pass along to the next generation. And an important man skill is to be the kind of man who can teach young men and elevate them and show them what it takes to be a man, to be a successful man, and be a man with man skills. I think that in and of itself is a man skill.
I agree with you, yeah. And like you said, also being able to, kids, I think you look at young boys, they have a need to, I was like this, I had a need to deconstruct everything. Like I wanted to take things apart and understand them. And then maintaining things is part of that. Like if you don't take care of your house and you let your house fall apart, if you let your guns fall apart, if you let your things fall apart, you don't really have pride in anything. I think that's a really important skill also. Just being able to maintain things is a hugely important skill. Whatever it is, like you bought it or you made it, you better know how to take care of it so that it lasts.
100%. 100%. And, I really like that you brought your guns on the show. I really like that you showed us what these guns look like. I really like that you talked about gun safety. I like that you actually, field stripped one of your guns here and you ran your finger through it and you said, yeah, I'm going to clean this up. I think that's fantastic, man. That's an example of a man who takes pride in having man skills, utilizing those man skills. And Elon, it's one of the many things that I really admire about you, brother. So
thank you,
kudos.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet, man. So Elon, let's wrap up the show. And let's wrap up the show by tying all this back into being a sovereign man. Why is having man skills make you a sovereign man, a man with dominion over himself?
For the very reasons we've been saying. If you can take care of yourself and you can take care of your family, then you have dominion over yourself. And again, you're self-reliant. You're not reliant on others. It's just a victim versus what's the word? Like someone who is self-capable.
Victim versus victor.
Victor. That's the right word. Yeah. I rather perceive myself as a victor, but that's not going to happen unless I take action to actually be a victor. And so having these skills involves taking action. It involves actually putting in the time. It doesn't happen. You don't become a victor by accident, put it that way. So I think everything we're talking about today are things that lead you to become a victor, not a victim. And in every situation, like you said, self-defense, hand to hand, forget the guns, just being able to use your hands. You can't use your hands and someone approaches you, you're not going to be confident in that situation. You're relying on not having experienced something and then hoping you can handle yourself in that situation. I want to immerse myself into every possible experience so that I know that when something similar comes up, oh, I've been here before. I know I can handle this.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. You need your 10,000 hours, really, not just in the things that you do for a living. You need your 10,000 hours in the skills that matter to you and are important to you to be successful in life as a man. Now, you might not be able to put 10,000 hours into 30 different things because, that's a lot of hours, but you could probably put in a couple hundred hours into certain things. And that'll be enough, maybe not to make you a world-renowned expert, but to at least make you conversant with that skill, conversant with the ability to field strip a gun, to use a gun, to shoot a gun, to engage in gun safety, to, maintain a knife and to disassemble it and clean it, to go out there and hunt, to go out there and change your tire on your car, change the oil, to go out there and pitch a tent if you need to engage in wilderness survival. And those things really, to me, speak to being a sovereign man, because as you said, a sovereign man who has dominion over himself is a self-sufficient man, is a man who can take care of himself. Having man skills epitomizes sovereignty for a man. And I got to tell you, Elon, this has been a really fun conversation. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed the back and forth banter that we had, because that's always great. I enjoyed that, you and I are like brothers. That's fantastic. But the part I loved the best, man, was when you brought the guns out, brother, and I got to see those guns, man. That was awesome. Yeah. So we're going to have to make sure you bring out some more guns. Oh, yeah, buddy. That's it. That's it, man. That's awesome. So when you
put them away, though.
Yeah, when you get the AK, definitely bring that on the show. We'd love to have you talk about that and some of the things that you're doing with it. I think that's fantastic stuff. And I'll tell you this, man, having you come on these shows. We should just do a gun episode. You know what I mean? Where we just have you come and show guns. We should just do a knife episode where we both bring our knives and we talk about the knives and what we do with them. So why don't we make sure that we
did I say this? Look at this thing I think.
There's Elon, man, bringing something for us to see. Oh, God, look at that, eh? Double-headed axe.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's Damascus doesn't really exist anymore, not by the true sense, but it's like Damascus style. They say like modern day Damascus is just kind of an imitation of real Damascus, but I mean, still pretty awesome.
Dude, that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. I mean, you look like you're a miniature Viking with that thing in your hand, going into the Viking ships and going out there to plunder the English countryside with your two-headed axe, brother. No, but seriously, let's do some episodes with guns, with knives, with swords, and let's really get into it, because I really think those will be really fun episodes, and we can talk to the folks that listen and watch this particular show about how to, pick a good knife, to pick a good sword, pick a good gun, frankly, if you're in a jurisdiction where it's legal to have that gun. I think that's going to be fun. I think a lot of men are going to really enjoy that. So let's make sure that we do that, okay?
I absolutely think we should talk about all that stuff, because a lot of people just don't know, and they don't know where to go for to answer their questions. And like, it's really good just to have a little bit of information that people can watch and say, okay, well, now I'm not completely lost. I might give them the confidence to go pick up a gun.
You know what? And let's have you field strip a gun on the show, and I'll field strip a knife on the show as well, so that we can teach people how to do that. I think that's going to be really, really great.
Each gun is field stripped differently, though.
I know. We're going to talk about it as you do it, so people learn about it. I think that's going to be really great. So here's the thing, my man. As you can see, Elon, so that's awesome, man. We've got Sovereign Man gear now. The website is up, sovereignman.ca. You've got this beautiful hat. You got this really kick-ass Sovereign Man t-shirt. So listen, man, if you're checking out this show and you like the gear that I'm sporting, support us. Go on the website, purchase a hat, purchase a shirt, support the cause. Listen, we're here to help you as men be the best version of yourselves. And the only way you're going to be the best version of yourselves is if you're consuming this kind of content, you're part of this movement, and you are helping support the cause of helping men be proud of being masculine men again. Okay? And that's important for you to do, listeners. So make sure you do that. Elon, isn't this a badass looking logo?
I love it. I saw it earlier. Remember when you were coming up with it? I love it.
Yeah. It's good stuff. All right, man. It's been a lot of fun, Elon. Thanks a lot, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Sovereign Man podcast. If you're ready to take charge of your life and become the man you've always wanted to be, we invite you to join the movement at sovereignman.ca.